onshore alone in the country. With all due respect to Alaska, I say, no offense, it's Texas that's number one, not Alaska. And that is a joke, you can laugh. And some people need to call down to Texas to find out the truth about energy production. But here at home, of course, we don't let quasi-governmental agencies set the world price. We let the market, the demand and supply side economics drive the amount of oil that's explored for and produced. At least not this governmental agency, and I hope in my lifetime never a governmental agency in the United States of America would be involved in setting the price of oil worldwide. But when it comes to energy, the geology might change depending on where you are around the world, but the technology and the know-how to get it out of the ground is the same in any language, in any country. Only in Texas, of course, Judge Emmett mentioned about the agency name that we've had nothing to do with railroads since 2005. But the Texas Energy Agency, to which you elected me, has oversight of about 350,000 oil and gas wells. They're either in the process of being permitted, produced, or being plugged because they're at the end of their lifespan. Those wells, those 350 wells, are really the physical manifestation of a state of mind that's defined Texas ever since Spindletop came in so big not too far away in Beaumont and the salt domes in 1901 over in Beaumont. That was the year my grandmother was born, by the way. Within 10 years after that, in about 1911, the Railroad Commission was given the authority to regulate the shipping of crude oil across the state. And since then, we've been setting policy about energy production, both onshore and offshore. Offshore to 3 leagues, about a little over 10 miles. Energy fuels the Texas economy. It's been a safety net for us in this national economic downturn, especially here in Houston, through the severance taxes on every every TCF of natural gas, MCF, and every barrel of oil that's produced, property taxes in the ground, payroll taxes, royalties, mineral interests, and of course the jobs. And those jobs have been on my radar screen because many of the companies involved in hiring in the energy industry are right here, headquartered right here in Houston. They provide services to offshore drilling, and they've been laying people off since a moratorium was put in place. And so Texans are on the front line of getting the bird's eye view, if you will, of what government can do to help and to hurt business. Small, medium, or large business can't sustain too long bad public policy, and it's no secret that I think that a moratorium on deep water drilling is bad public policy. And I did have the opportunity to participate this morning, in fact, here in Houston, on a panel with the new head of the federal agency that's going to oversee the drilling in the deep water outer continental shelf. And I'm just fighting hard to keep them offshore in the deep water and not in the shallow water that is the jurisdiction of the Railroad Commission of Texas and of you. But unfortunately, bad policy doesn't just stop there with the moratorium, and I want to just give you one example and how important it is for chambers to get involved if this matters to you. Because you may not be in the energy industry, but bad public policy could be coming to an industry near you, near and dear to your heart. And sometimes you spend an awful lot of time trying to stop bad things happening at the hands of government. As an energy regulator, of course, one of the things that's been on my radar screen is the Consolidated Land, Energy, and Aquatic Resources Act, the CLEAR Act. It was also known as the Blowout Prevention Act, the BP Act, folded into one big bill that came out of the House of Representatives in Washington, recently passed, has not passed the Senate. And I've got to tell you, as the railroad commissioner, a fiscal conservative and a Texan with my own deep roots in the oil patch, also as a believer in the state's authority because you elected me to do a job and you expect me to do a good job. And I work hard to do that for you. But the CLEAR Act is a tremendous threat to the state's authority and jurisdiction in regulating the energy industry, specifically in our Texas sea waters, up to 10 miles offshore. And there are some details that also make it particularly bad, but whether you're involved in the energy industry in a small or a medium-sized business, or you are a consumer of energy who pays the cost for higher energy because the production costs go up, this is something that all Texans ought to be cognizant of and watching like a hawk. So I had the opportunity to share my opinion with the panel this morning. I made you proud. I think I minded my manners. I did it in a nice and constructive way, I hope to think. Yes, I thought, how would he like me to present this opinion? But I did share the opinion with the panel in a constructive way, I hope, and offered my help as a Railroad Commission and the help of the Texas Energy Agency for the federal government to come up with sound, good public policy going forward. But I might add that if you do want an opinion, you just call me. I am certainly never without one, but I temper my opinions with thought. And I'm excited to announce that America can be energy secure. And that is not energy independent. Energy security means to me that this country should trade, will trade, can trade, even if it's energy, with countries who desire to have a meaningful relationship with us. Whether it's natural gas, oil, experience, and expertise, Texas is a shining star, and this state is open for business. And when the buyer and seller both benefit. Chambers like this, like you all, are so important to educate, inform, and act as advocates for Texas businesses to grow and prosper. And I really want to encourage you to stay involved on many, many different levels. And not just locally in campaigns like that. We've got your county judge here today and Representative Murphy here today. But stay involved in judicial campaigns as well. Learn what the facts are, what the people's backgrounds are, because we have a judicial system in this state, and we elect our judges, and incumbent upon you here in this room to be informed voters. A judicial temperament. Do they have a judicial temperament, a knowledge of the Texas Constitution, regard for the laws that are made by your state representatives and senators? And also, in all of this, as you learn who your state representatives and your state senators are, be forthright in your own opinions as well, and make sure that you turn up on voting day or early voting, and make your own commitment to be that kind of citizen activist who actually does vote. Because in America, our voting turnout is very, very dismal. And I would like to see the Texas Turkish Chamber of Commerce lead the way in voter turnout. I want to tell you a little bit about some opinions I have, because I am an energy commissioner, about alternative sources of energy that are all the buzz and we're all talking about. We're the largest producer of wind power in the nation, in this state. In fact, we are larger than all but 4 other countries as far as the production of wind. But I want to be quite clear that alternative energy sources really right now and for the near and the midterm future just can't cut it without the use of traditional energy sources, and I'm talking about hydrocarbons. So, because I simply don't believe the federal government in Washington, and that includes 48 senators from other states, to best decide how to use your tax dollars on what the next generation of fuel for our country will be, I typically try to put the brakes on long-term subsidies for alternative sources of energy. That's just my philosophy. I like these industries to stand on their own 2 feet, because they'll stand a whole lot longer if the people decide. I'm a big believer in natural gas and the great potential that natural gas has for this country. And I believe that the reliability of natural gas as a cheap and stable energy source will be one of the engines that fuels our recovery from this terrible, terrible economic, as so many people have said, tsunami. But anyway, simply put, we need an energy policy that acknowledges the reality of fossil fuels, how they'll continue to play a vital role in powering the American economy. a government that doesn't favor one source over another with unending tax subsidies, a policy that acknowledges the creative destruction of capitalism, which means that eventually some idea will make way for another and doesn't deserve to be carried across a finish line by endless supplies of money that the country keeps printing. Something more ingenious is awaiting to be discovered. As businessmen and women, I bet you know what I'm talking about because you're entrepreneurs in this room. As Texans, you bring with you a fine heritage of family and a work ethic that can't be topped. You know what I mean about the power of building good relationships upon which trade and commerce can thrive. And it is the small and the medium, and yes, even the large companies that might have been small once that deserve the credit for job creation and will be getting the credit for the rebirth of our economy, our security, and our spirit. And they can do that, I believe, if the government won't try to overcorrect, will stay out of the way and let you guys loose to do what you do best. I've had the opportunity to travel the state, and I do highly recommend it. It's great, and I know where every Starbucks is in every city in Texas, I might add. And they all know to expect me at 9 o'clock in the morning or at 8 and then 3 o'clock in the afternoon, whether it's Amarillo or Kingsville. The one in Kingsville is not open anymore. But truly, it is a great, great, wonderful state. And I've listened to a lot of people, and then I get to do a lot of thinking when I'm behind the wheel trying not to speed down Interstate 35 or 10 or some small backcountry road. Or maybe I'm not backseat driving the person who gets to be so lucky to drive me. But at times like this, I get the chance to speak out about what I've learned and who I've seen and what I've noticed. And it reminds me of an old Turkish proverb that you may have heard me mention before. Listen 100 times, ponder 1,000 times, and speak once. There's a lot more thinking than listening, and more of both than talking. So I will truly take this to heart, and I do. But for this one time, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to do some speaking. And I hope it is not the last time, and I look forward to a conversation that goes on for many, many years to come.